Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome back to the Den of the Wanderer. So today, I have my art grimoire out on the table. This fantastic summer solstice candle I got from Moonraven, and I'll link her channel below, you guys. She did a tutorial on how she made this candle, and it is just amazing, and I love it, and it's totally giving me those summer vibes that I have just been way into right now. So I've got that lit up, some incense going, and a nice cup of green tea lemonade because we're talking summer and sun power. So with this summer season, I have been feeling a huge resurgence of energy. So I've been looking for ways to channel that. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I actually did a list of 7 grimoire prompts just for the summer. They could be grimoire or journal prompts if you're not too into grimoire. But I thought it would be fun to show you guys my take on one of those prompts in this book. So this is my art grimoire. I made it actually maybe like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. And I just recently started filling it up. I've been sitting on it for a while and thinking about what I wanted to put in here and what kind of my goal was. And then I decided to stop being precious about it and just put whatever I felt like in here. And that has been a blast. So I'm going to move this to a safe place because fire safety is the most important kind of safety. And show you guys what we did. So there will probably be a full flip through once I get some more stuff in here. There's not a lot of stuff going on in here, guys, to be honest. Like I said, I only recently started. But this is the page that I will walk you through in just a second. So one of the prompts was, what myths apply to the season of summer, and what lessons do they have to teach you as you move through the season? So what I chose was the legend or the myth of Prometheus bringing the fire down to earth. That struck me as a very summertime sort of story. I don't know why, but when I was writing the prompts, it was the first one that came to mind. And so I thought, especially considering that I'm just starting this channel in the summer, I thought I would look into the myths of Prometheus and how that applied to what I've kind of got going on energetically. And so in the video, I will walk you through how we make this page, and I'll tell you the myth of Prometheus and how that all kind of ties in together for me, and how I'm using that myth to encourage myself to bring the light wherever I go. And I hope that you guys enjoy it. Let me know in the comments below if you like this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And on top of that, if you guys choose to do any of the prompts that I have listed on my Instagram, let me know. I have a hashtag. It's hashtag DOW Grimoire, and I'm following that. So if you post anything that you do, anything you were inspired by on this channel, use that hashtag, and I will be able to see it. And I'm just really excited if you decide to journal along with me. I want to know. I want to see what you guys create. So let's get on the table, and I'll show you guys what we got going on here. All right, so I'm just going to find a blank page here in my grimoire to get started. And I'm going to use some scrap paper that I have that I've used a bunch of times, obviously, to keep that from spreading onto the other pages. And then I'm going to start out with some white gesso. Use the white gesso just to kind of build a base to start out with. And I'm going to try to get it all across the page as fast as I can because I want it to stay wet for the next stage. So if you aren't familiar with the myth of Prometheus, he is credited as the Titan who formed mankind out of dirt and clay, as well as being the bringer of fire after tricking Zeus into choosing a kind of unappetizing sacrifice, if you will, so that mankind could keep the parts of the animal that were edible. He tricked Zeus into taking the one that was like bones and fat and stuff by just making it look really tasty. And Zeus got mad and had a little hissy fit and took fire back from mankind and kind of put them into this cold, dark place where they weren't able to progress or grow as a civilization. And Prometheus is the one who tricked the gods into fighting amongst themselves so he could steal fire and bring it back down to mankind. And with this came the advent of technology and progress, and really helped mankind flourish, and they were able to eat and not starve because they were able to cook the meat that they got to keep from their animal sacrifices and stuff like that. So I just thought this myth really tied in to the whole idea of like the solar season of bringing in the light. And we just went through midsummer where we had the longest day of the year, and I thought all this sort of excess light that we were getting from the longest day of the year was sort of carried into that theme overall. So to start out with on this page, while the gesso is still wet, I have added in this really light yellow color. The label is missing off that paint. I don't even know where I got it from. It's just a really super, super light yellow color. You can make that with just yellow and white if you don't have it already made. And then I'm going to go in with this terracotta color. It's kind of an orangey, rusty looking color, and just blend it in. And the whole idea here is to start with a circle and just work my way around while the paint is still wet, and keep it kind of light and just kind of blend those colors together. So I don't want there to be any harsh lines, anything like that. I just want to kind of have a nice gradual transition going outward from that circle of colors. And of course, I'm using colors that represent fire and also show light. So I want that center point to be the brightest point, and then everything around it's going to get gradually darker. So, thinking on the story of Prometheus and how he brought light to mankind, I started to think about ways that that story sort of related to me and what I'm trying to do and what I'm feeling right now. And so, for one of the things that I want to do with this channel is sort of teach people how to turn art into a spiritual practice and share some of the stuff that I know and I've picked up along the way. And I just thought it was really applicable because I want to bring, a positive atmosphere and a positive space where people can feel free to come around and be creative, but also learn things as they go. I have kind of always wanted to be a teacher, but I don't really like school. So that was never really going to work out for me. But I think this is one of the ways that I get to kind of draw on that teaching drive or that desire to teach without actually having to go back to school to do it. So I'm hoping that with this channel I'll be able to teach people who may not have necessarily considered that this was an approach or something they could have done, how to apply more art to their practices, to their daily lives, and turn it into their spiritual practice and not just have two separate things. Because I really think the best way that I can express myself spiritually and in reality is through art. So that's why I started this art grimoire, and I've always kind of tried to find ways to incorporate some sort of art or craft into what I'm doing in my practice. And so I'm just really excited to share that with you guys. And I think that kind of goes with that theme of bringing in the light. You bring light to people by sharing your knowledge. The more you learn, the more you grow, and that kind of ties into the whole progress of humanity as they go on. But to illustrate that this is a light in a time of darkness or in a dark place where there may have been an absence of, I'm adding in a little bit of black gesso around the edge. One, to just kind of frame the image itself, but then also to once again illustrate that dark property and where we're casting the light onto, where that light's actually going. And you might notice that on the side of those pages, I'm kind of like getting some paint and stuff onto the next page. I'm not worried about that at all, you guys. It just sort of adds to the textures and the backgrounds of the next page that I put onto it. So don't even worry. Try not to be too particular and too precious when you start doing these things. Otherwise, you're going to be really frustrated because things won't come out the way that you envision them to be perfectly. So here I have a stencil and just some Lindy spray. You can use ink or anything you have on hand. And I'm using these triangles because they kind of remind me of like the direction of fire and the way it goes. And they also kind of tie into that solar rays and stuff. And I want to add something interesting or visually stimulating to the background, so it's not just a flat piece. So you can see that there are some straight lines in there. So I'm just going to take the stencil and flip it over and catch up what I have sprayed on top of there and get those little latent impressions in there to sort of round it out a little bit better. And then I'm just going to wipe away anything that I don't particularly want if there's too much spillover. And I'm going to cut up this little image that I got from just a quick Google search. because I don't have that much artistic ability, so I can't really draw hands very well. But I found this really great image of just a clenched fist. I wanted to use that, and I'm just going to Mod Podge it down. You can totally find your own images with magazines, anything you have. If you're more artistically inclined than I am, definitely get out your pens and your markers and your paints and paint up a hand if that's what you're cool with. Um, if you choose to make this spread, I mean. Um, then I'm just going to I'm also going to Mod Podge over the top so that I can go back and add some details later without smudging anything. If you're printing up stuff like me and you have a inkjet printer and not a laser jet printer, you're going to have to work fairly quickly because the inks from the image are going to transfer onto your page and they might ruin what you have already set with the background. So using some sunflower archival ink, I'm going to go do some little stamping. I realized while I was doing this that my stamp was still dirty from the last time I used it, but that's okay. I wasn't too upset about it. It's a little bit darker than I would have wanted, but it shows up more. And that's just to scatter up that background a little bit more and add another layer of texture to look at. And now I'm just going in with some colors that I've chosen that are also relating to fire. I find some reds, that yellow comes back, a darker yellow, and an orange color. And what I'm going to do is paint in the torch or the fire that Prometheus has brought to Earth. And I'm just going to go keep it really loose. I'm not looking for anything too particular or too like perfect. I just want it to have the feeling of fire. And I'm not going to go through the process of painting like the whole stick that the torch is on. I just want to kind of keep it more metaphorical and more a little abstract, I guess, and less literal than an actual torch by making it an entire thing of flames. So what I did was kind of draw out where I wanted to go with the light yellow color, and then I'm going back over, adding some more colors, just kind of randomly blending them together. Going to pick up some of that orange color, tie that in there, and the trick to this is just to paint in the same direction every time you go. Even if you don't go in the exact same place, you'll get some interesting layers of fire as you're building it up. And if you kind of mess it up, which I do eventually get a little crazy and a little particular, you can always go back over and just kind of redefine those lines and those structures, and it'll come out just fine. It doesn't have to be, the most perfect looking flame because fire doesn't really look exactly the same every time you see it. You just want it to look like fire when you first see it. It doesn't really matter if it looks like, those super perfect, like tattoo style flames. It can be whatever. And so I'm going to dry in between these layers so I can fix my little boo-boo there, but also add in some more of that light color back before it gets too dark. And that'll add some nice highlights on the top and make your flames pop out a little bit more. So you can see here I'm trying to adjust it. I wasn't really happy with how those flames came out. So just some quick little scribbling around, working with it, and then I end up with a product that I'm overall happy with. And I'm just going to go back and add a little bit more of that light yellow color so there's some more highlights. Now here I have an Inktense pencil in black. I'm going to go add the shadows into the hand. And I'm trying to keep in mind that the flame is on the top, the brightest flame, and so the bottom of the hand needs to be shadowed. Even though I know that there's that little tiny bit of flame coming out of the bottom, I want to bring the shadows onto the bottom of the hand. And then I'm just going to use a little water to activate that pigment so I can deepen up that shadow and give it a little more depth. As I started doing underneath the arm, I decided that there was too much of that color, so I'm just going to go over it a couple of times to wipe it away and get it to the actual intensity that I want. But you can see since I Mod Podged on top of the hand, I'm able to just wipe off anything extra or anything that gets a little sloppy looking that I'm not happy with. And so that's why it's really important to Mod Podge the top so that you have a non-porous surface to work on. And I'm going to use a Posca paint pen. This is just a regular white paint pen. You can use a white pen or white paint if you don't have a pen. And I'm just going to go in and try to add some of those highlights, pick up some of the places where the hand should be the lightest or where it's catching the light. And then I'm just going to use my finger to kind of tamp it down a little bit so it's not as bright. And then I'm going to go to the flames and add the final highlights to that so it all kind of pops out and has more of a drawn quality to it as opposed to just a flat matte painted finish. And then I'm going to go through and add some shadows to the fingers and to the hands just to kind of deepen what's already there. Mostly because I can't stop myself and I like to continue to add more depth and stuff like that, even if it's only something I can see. But it's up to you how much you do. Just have fun with it and keep it kind of loose. And then I'm going to go add some more of those white highlights to the top of the hand and at the very bottom where the flame is like connecting. And here I've got some foam stamps that I'm going to use to stamp out a sentiment to remind myself what this hand holding the flame symbolizes. And I think the sentiment I chose is bring the light. And it's just going to be a reminder to me to continue to share the knowledge that I have and bring that light so I can encourage the progress and growth like Prometheus did, because that's kind of overall what I want to do. And it really resonates with me, and that's why I wanted to include it in my grimoire, because I feel like it's something that I can do, but also strive to do on the regular, and seeing it will bring that back and will also tie in to the myth of Prometheus and remind me about the lessons that I learned there. So I'm just using some black archival ink. I chose this because it's not going to lift off, and so if I get water from the other pages or anything on that, it's going to stay there. And I'm not even worried about stamping over what I just painted. It just kind of all ties in together and makes it a more cohesive sort of thing. And here I have a white Posca paint pen. It's a really thin one. It wasn't really cooperating, so I had to go like stamp it out on a little page to the side. And now I've got it going. So I'm just going to highlight those words a little bit because I want them to stand out on the page as well. And I felt like they were too flat and a little too dark, so I'm going to brighten them up a little bit, adding some white highlights. And so that's pretty much all I'm going to do to this page. I wonder if this myth resonates with you guys. Did you feel you've learned anything from this, or if this helped you in any way? Are you going to try out your own journal prompts? Don't forget to tag me. And that's going to be all for me, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.